Welcome to New Hampshire's Business. I'm Fred Coker. Critical issues facing New Hampshire in 2025 include education, housing, health care, early child care, and cost of living. These critical issues are on fact sheets just produced by the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute based in Concord. And with me in the studio is the research director for the Institute, Phil Slatton, who not only briefs the general public in New Hampshire on key fiscal economic issues facing the state, but also briefs the New Hampshire legislature. Welcome, Phil. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, Fred. It's great to be back.
You indicated that you drew on more than 30 sources to validate these facts that we're about to show. And let's go to the first one, which is education. In 2022, New Hampshire spent the least amount of state funds on its public K-12 schools as a percentage of the total revenue of any state in the country. Is this still the case in 2025?
Yeah, the most recent data we have for interstate comparisons is unfortunately still fiscal year 2022, at least that's complete. However, if we look at the level of funding, the amount of dollars collected in revenue for pupil for elementary and secondary local public school education, then we rank about 10th relative to all the states in D.C. But as a percentage of that revenue that comes from the state government, that's where New Hampshire ranks at the bottom, which means that we are disproportionately reliant on local property taxes, which fund about 70% of local public education in New Hampshire, to fund that education.
Yeah, and the expenditure per student, per pupil, is actually going up. But there's a debate on how much that is, and of course the property tax supports that.
Yes, it's gone up quite a bit, especially over the course of the pandemic.
And housing, based on median household income in 2023, a New Hampshire household would have needed to spend about 49% of its monthly income to afford a median-priced house in 2024. Affordability in housing, that's a constraint on the labor force.
Yes, it's absolutely a constraint on the labor force. So if you were a buyer in 2024 in New Hampshire and you bought the median home, paid an average mortgage interest rate for a 30-year mortgage, and paid the average property taxes, then you're looking at a monthly mortgage payment for your housing of about $4,000 a month. And that's more than twice what it was in 2019. That means that more renters are probably not able to enter the home ownership market. That puts upward pressure on rents. It means that families are maybe going to have a harder time finding space to grow. And it means that people who otherwise would move here to be part of the labor force may have trouble finding affordable housing.
You're right. And now, health care, medical care spending per person on personal health care, including public and private insurance expenditures, totaled $11,793 during 2020 in New Hampshire. That amount was the 11th highest expenditure amount among the 50 states, but was the second lowest in New England among the New England states. Is this the most recent information?
Yeah, unfortunately, this breakdown in 2020 is the most recent that gets at this comprehensive per capita number. But if we look at other data that's even more recent from 2023 and 2024, we have some evidence that health care in this region and health coverage in this region are more expensive. About 1 in 20 Granite Staters don't have health coverage right now, don't have some form of health insurance. And at the end of last year, about 186,000 people in the state relied on Medicaid for their public health coverage, which is a state-federal fiscal partnership that funds services for folks particularly with low incomes.
Let's go to early childhood child care and education in 2024. An average of 17,300 Granite Staters each month were not in the labor force because they were caring for children. Availability and affordability of child care is the issue.
Yeah, we've seen the price of child care go up, and as those numbers suggest, there may be more and more people who are making the trade-off between entering the labor force and caring for a child at home. As that price goes up of child care, and as the availability of child care slots becomes more limited and there's a larger shortage, that means that trade-off is something that more households are having to make. So someone who otherwise would prefer to be in the labor force is now out of the labor force, and that could have implications for the child. They're not getting the socialization that may benefit them if they were in an early care and education setting.
Now, the last one is cost of living, is something that we all have been dealing with through the last election. Approximately 1 in every 13 New Hampshire children were living below the poverty level in 2023, according to official poverty measure. A total of 98,000 lived in poverty in 2023 in this state.
Yes, and the poverty rate in New Hampshire was 7.2%, and those represent very low incomes relative to the estimates of cost of living. But it's not just folks in poverty. If we look at survey data of New Hampshire households, all adults in New Hampshire in 2024, about 30% said it was somewhat or very difficult to afford usual household expenses in the last 7 days.
And we got through it, Phil.
We did.
all 5 of those facts. Phil Sletton, who is research director at the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
And if you missed part of this, you can go to WMUR.com, where we're going to be posted all week.